Well, we'll get started. And we'll begin with a land acknowledgement that Missoula County acknowledges that this event takes place in the Aboriginal territories of the Salish and Kalispel people. Please join us for the pledge. Thanks, Violet. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Violet. Do we have any public announcements? Okay, public comment on items not on the agenda. Okay, our current claims list as of December 2nd to December 27th is totals $4,602,000 and $4,602,663.31. And we have 3 hearings today, so we'll start with Todd Cleats and Clearwater River preliminary floodplain maps. And we see your slide, Todd, but I think you're muted.
Thank you.
There we go.
Perfect. For the record, my name is Todd Cleats, Missoula County Floodplain Administrator, and we're here to adopt the FEMA revised preliminary digital flood insurance rate maps for the Clearwater River. The original FEMA floodplain maps were first adopted in 1983. What we have produced by FEMA now is brand new data from, what is that, almost 40 years ago now, that's being updated with new hydraulics and new hydrology. So just to kind of give you a timeline as to what's been going on. So in 2014, that's when the state of Montana started to work on this new study. They started with the hydrology, which is to try to figure out how much water comes down the Clearwater drainage during the 100-year flood event. And that hydrology was reviewed and approved by FEMA in 2017. DNRC produced their own draft floodplain maps in 2020, which were presented to the county commissioners. And at that point in time, we did a public mailing to all the affected property owners. In March of 2021, FEMA produced their version of those maps, where we did a second postcard mailing to all the property owners, had some press in the Pathfinder, we had a virtual open house, and of course put information in our CAPS newsletter. That first draft from FEMA had an error in it, so in November, FEMA corrected that error and produced new floodplain maps, which were sent to us as revised preliminary digital flood insurance rate maps, and that's what we're hoping to adopt today for local regulatory purposes. And the reason that we do that is that it's going to take quite some time before FEMA will formally adopt these maps. But in the meantime, we want to make sure that anybody that would be potentially thinking of building in the floodplain up there that has not currently been identified as being in the floodplain, that they build so responsibly, won't get flooded, and won't have exorbitantly high flood insurance premiums when those new maps do go effective. In the meantime, if someone believes that these new FEMA maps are in error, they can, of course, provide us with additional information if they want to contest those maps, and they will have a formal ability to contest those maps here later on this summer. So this process for adopting these as local regulatory maps has been something that Missoula County's done over the past for multiple different floodplain maps as they come along. And again, it's not to say that these are the final maps that will be used for flood insurance purposes, but they are the best available maps that we have for information to make sure people construct their homes wisely and in a responsible manner. So there are 6 maps that 6 or 7 maps I believe that you have in your folder, along with a resolution for adoption. What will happen after these maps are adopted for regulatory purposes is we will of course use those in the planning office. The health department will use these for their septic siting purposes. So everything at the local level will be done safely and appropriately. We will then send out a final postcard mailing later this spring, advising all the affected property owners of these potential changes. For the final flood insurance rate maps, FEMA will review all those comments. They'll produce their final floodplain maps in about a year, and those will theoretically go effective in September of 2023. So again, we've got at least a year and a half, a little bit more, before these will finally be adopted. So we want to make sure that we get that information out and people are able to use that prior to that final adoption date. So that's what I had to share. Again, we've got those maps in your folder. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thanks, Todd. Well, Dave, do you have any questions about the maps or anything?
I might in a second if there's no public comment.
I don't see anyone raising their hands. Is there any public comment?
Okay. Well, I do have a question, Todd. So back in 2017, you had mentioned that FEMA adopted the hydrology or adopted hydrology. What does that amount to? Since I'm assuming that's different than adopting the maps.
Right. So the hydrology is just the initial portion of making floodplain maps for FEMA's purposes. First, they had to figure out where how much water is going to be coming down during the 100-year event, and that's what the hydrology was. The state of Montana hired contractors to figure out that hydrology, and before they went to start mapping that floodplain, they wanted assurance from FEMA that they were on the right track with how much water they thought was coming down during that 100-year event. So that's what was approved by FEMA in 2017, which then gave the state the confidence to go ahead and map the floodplain based on how much water was coming down during the 100-year flood.
Got it. Thank you. Well, I'm happy to make a motion. If we're ready for that.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I'd move that the Board of County Commissioners adopt the Federal Emergency Management Agency Clearwater River revised preliminary digital flood insurance rate maps as best available information.
Second. Any further comment or public comment? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'll get that resolution to you for signature.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So next up we have Kona Ranch, minor subdivision. Hey, Nick.
Howdy, let me share my screen here. We'll get going. Here we go. Okay, good afternoon. Today I'll be talking about the Kona Ranch Road minor subdivision. This is a 5-lot minor subdivision proposed by Tanya Kuhl and Travis Romeo, and they are represented by 406 Engineering. We're going to start with the project background. The project location is at the corner of Kona Ranch Road and Mullen Road, which is on the western side of Missoula Valley. You can see it, this red triangle here in the top left corner of the map. Property is currently zoned CC1, neighborhood commercial, and the 2019 land use element designates this tract as rural, residential, and small agriculture. Excuse me. Just taking a quick look at the proposed new zoning draft, since we know it's in the pipeline, it is proposed to be zoned neighborhood center, which is the equivalent to the CC1 zoning district that it is zoned now, and this district allows for similar uses as this current district. Taking a look at the applicant's proposal, they are proposing to divide the 1.3 acre parcel into 5 lots. Lots 1 through 4 are proposed duplex lots, with lot 5 proposed as a single family home. The duplex on lot 4 is already constructed. And then all remaining structures have already received building and zoning compliance permits, with a few of the structures being at various stages of construction. Now we're going to look at zoning and growth policy compliance. So the CC1 zoning district has requirements for a minimum parcel area per dwelling and a minimum lot area for residential uses. Both of these requirements are satisfied in the proposal. The proposal is also setback compliant, and duplexes are allowed in the district as a permitted use. Looking at growth policy, the rural, residential, and small ag designation recommends 1 unit per 1 acre to 2 units per 1 acre, which this proposal does exceed. However, this designation also allows for a density bonus where properties can connect to public utilities. In this case, the proposed subdivision will be connecting to the City of Missoula sewer system and has an on-site multi-user well. The proposal also complies with the growth policy goals and objectives, specifically objective 8.2, which is to provide opportunities for varied land uses in and around the existing communities, and objective 8.3, which is to guide new subdivisions and development to areas that have the least impact on natural resources and are the most suited for development. So now looking at impacts to local services, as I just mentioned, for water and sanitation, they are connecting to the City of Missoula sewer system and already have a multi-user well installed on site for their water source. For roads, the primary access to the subdivision will be from a single approach from Kona Ranch Road. Lots 1 through 3 will be served by a proposed private drive, Maya Jane Lane, which comes off of the Kona Ranch Road approach. Then lots 4 through 5 will have direct access from Kona Ranch Road via private driveways from the single approach. For parks and recreation, there is no parkland dedication or pedestrian infrastructure that is required for minor subdivisions. And for emergency services, the subdivision is serviced by the Missoula Rural Fire District and the Missoula County Sheriff's Office. There's 2 HG comments that I want to highlight. The first was from the Missoula Rural Fire District, which recommended residential fire sprinklers in all new dwellings, and staff is recommending a condition of approval requiring this. I do want to note that even though the structures were already permitted, they do include fire sprinklers, so this will just be extra affirmation for that. Second, in order to help expand public transportation in the Mullen area, Mountain Line recommended annexation into the Missoula Urban Transportation District prior to final plat approval, and there's also a condition of approval to affirm this. For public comment, adjacent property owners within 300 feet were notified via mail. We received 2 emails from adjacent property owners. To summarize those comments, there was concerns over the density of the subdivision and how the proposed high density fits into the overall character of the surrounding area. Concerns regarding the increased use of local and private services. And then there's also concerns about the proximity of the development at the corner of Mullen Road and Kona Ranch Road. And in conclusion, staff is recommending approval of the subdivision subject to 14 conditions of approval. I can turn it back to you.
Thanks, Nick. Did the developers want to say anything? Or who do we have?
Should have Carl from 406. I see the yeah, I see them online here.
Oh, okay.
Carl,
Yeah,
are you here?
406. Does anyone from 406 want to add?
Yeah, this is Carl from 406. I have nothing else to add. I think Nick got it Pretty good. I also have Tanya and Travis here with me. Do you guys have anything you want to share?
No. I feel like you covered it very well.
And Nick, maybe this the last comment about the concern about the intersection with Kona Ranch Road and Mullen. Can you talk a little bit about how staff thought about that or the response to those concerns?
Yeah, totally. So we did send the project to Montana Department of Transportation for comment, since Mullen Road is managed by the state, and they did not have any concerns with the proximity to the intersection. And then I also over to Public Works, and they also did not see an issue. It is the second of two. I can pull it over on the map too. That might help. But it is the. Let me. There you go. It's the second of the two triangles, or the other triangle being over in this way for zoning. But the approach you can see here is quite a bit away from the intersection. About.
Okay, and what happens at
350 feet?
Okay, and what happens at the next approach that?
This one right here.
Mm-hmm.
That one, I'm not sure. That is a part of a different parcel that is not part of this project. So if they were, if that parcel were to come forth, we would address that starting from scratch on their proximity.
Okay. And is there, maybe I'm not sure, then is there a subdivision south that is just off the screen?
Yes, that would be the Stillwaters. And their intersection is the Copper John Drive.
Okay, and that's a pretty current photo that shows
yep.
current aerials, what things are looking like now? Okay.
Yeah, I think this was 2020. I think it might be the most current, but it's not a little more blurry there.
Okay. Dave, do you have any?
No, I'd love to hear what the public has to say if they're out there.
Any public comment? Oh, okay. Christina Ashton has her hand up.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, commissioners. This is Christina Ashton, just for the record. And we were one of the two emails that sent in public comments prior to this meeting getting notified of the proposed subdivision. We are actually the lot that is completely adjacent to the lot line for this proposed subdivision and the current two buildings or structures that are there right now. So we're that diamond-shaped triangle, if you see it on the map in the aerial view. So we would be the ones that would be directly affected by this subdivision, proposed subdivision. A couple other things that weren't mentioned in there is we weren't sure if these units were proposed to be sold or if they were going to be rental units. That would also make a huge impact as to what type of subdivision this would be, as well as there's supposed to be a T-shaped road in the proposal that butts up against the backside of the current duplex. So they basically have to rip out the entire yard and put up an asphalt driveway for fire lane access. And then we have a fence there that divides our property from their lot line. So wondering what's happening with the fence there. And then as well as parking becoming a concern with all of the shared driveway, it basically looks like an amalgamation of concrete to one shared driveway for one road. Basically, you're on top of everyone's driveway, and vehicles being another concern. And then if you do, because I know you noticed that with the aerial division view is the density population, there isn't anything even remotely close to that. And that's the reasons why most of the people that live out here live here for those reasons, is to have that lower density area. And historically, that's what it has been respected and recognized as down here in this area.
Thanks, Christina. Nick, can you show us the aerial again? Because I was having problems visualizing what Christina was talking about. with the road and her fence.
So I can pull up a copy of the road plan here. I got the application's a large file, so it's loading. But
Sorry. Okay.
No, it's all right. So I think what she's referring to is there will be a T-shaped hammerhead turnaround approximately in this area here, and that is a requirement for fire apparatus turnaround for coming from Maya Jane Lane, which will be coming this way. And once this document loads, I can pull it up here. Sorry, Commissioner, I should have had this one pulled up before started.
No, it's okay.
Okay. There we go. Ooh. There we go. It's a large file, so I just kind of axe that, but there's the hammerhead turnaround that we were talking about.
Okay, thank you. And Christina, is your hand still up?
Sorry, I can take that off.
No, no worries. Okay.
No, so I just, if you have any other additional questions for me or.
No, now I see what you were. I just needed something. I needed a visual to follow what you were saying. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so that would be on our lot line right there. And I'm not exactly, that's one of our biggest concerns is parking, abandoned vehicles being back there, just what would happen, because I've never seen a fence that lines up to asphalt on a road. So I don't know what would happen with the fence on something like that. And then if you look at the HOAs, I think there was a lot of comments in there. They only summarized what Nick had, but we had 2 pages worth of comments. The other one that we had was, if you look at the HOAs that they propose, they're proposing up to 4 dogs per unit, which means there could be 36 dogs in a very small lot. So up against our lot line. So I think looking at the HOAs is a definite concern, and then hugely the area aesthetics with that density, that high of a density on such a small plot of land.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
And does 406 or Tanya or Travis want to respond?
Yeah, we just want to say we do intend on keeping a fence along the property line. We're not going to open that up. The allotment for 4 dogs per unit, it must be a misprint. That's not correct. We don't intend to allow that many animals on the property. And in the covenants, we do have parking restrictions. There won't be any parking in that T turnaround. People got to stay to their driveways in the designated parking areas that are shown on there. And those additional parking spaces were requested by planning, just to have additional spaces besides the driveways.
For guests.
And there's also regulations in the covenants that people can't store like boats or RVs or anything like that. It has to be an in-use licensed vehicle at all times. And on the hammerhead, the fire department doesn't allow any parking ever. Like, that has to be kept clear at all times.
The part of the road that would be directly adjacent to them.
Oh, I think I missed that one. Can you repeat that?
I was just saying that the part of the road that does connect to their property, the fire department requires us to keep that completely clear of all vehicles, anything, nothing can be there. It has to be a clear turnaround for fire.
And we also plan on keeping this. We plan on keeping these as rental units for us. The only reason we're looking at a subdivision is if we ever got into a financial hardship and had to sell one for medical or whatever may come up as we get older.
Okay, thanks.
Can we phone in a question as well, or a comment?
Oh, yes,
So,
unless,
so this
sorry,
is another
I
neighboring
just want to make sure
property.
that Tanya was done. Tanya, were you done? Sorry.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm
we're all
sorry.
done.
Sorry. Okay, and then 11, phone number ending in 1182. If you could just state your name for the record, that would be helpful.
Okay, it's Patrick Altenbrunn, and my wife and I are also in the Stillwater subdivision and neighbors to the proposed development. My biggest comment or biggest concern, I would say, is that the current duplex that's there has averaged 5 vehicles over the course of the last year. If you times that by 4, you're looking at 20 vehicles plus the single family dwelling at another 2. I don't know on 1 acre how you ever fit 22 vehicles, let alone have them turn around and exit onto busy Kona and Mullen.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Is there anyone else on the phone that we're missing? Any other additional comments? I think, is that Patrick again on that 1182?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just didn't know. I hit mute. I didn't know if you had any more questions for me, but that's our biggest. I just don't understand how you can ever fit that many structures plus parking on barely over an acre. I don't know how the county would look at that and think that it really fits any plan. The only other, there's that nice walk that ends right in front of that, so hopefully that'll be developed and cleaned up too. So the path, it's been in horrible shape in the last year or two from the beginning of that subdivision, so hopefully that gets cleaned up with the additional buildings.
So maybe 406 or Tanya or Travis?
All these things are designed to accommodate vehicles for all the duplexes. They meet all regulations as far as space for parking and living. We do have the building permits for all these, so they're all approved by the county. And as far as logistically, everything will work out, is designed to work out appropriately for that density.
So for each structure, you have 2.5, or I should say for each duplex, you have 5 vehicle parking drawn in, and it actually does fit.
So we have 4. There was an extra vehicle there for a year because her son was deployed in China and couldn't come home due to COVID. So we allowed her to store a vehicle there because of special circumstances.
All right, it just seems like there's always an extra vehicle, and friends, neighbors come over, extra kids, everything else, and parking all over town. If you're familiar with any of these other more closely dense subdivisions, a lot of them do have huge parking problems, and it seems like a ridiculous place way out there in such a beautiful spread out area of town to have those issues and be so congested. So I don't see how, if it's built just to handle the bare minimum, then when you're parking in that turnaround restricted lane, that's the only place that people are going to, or they'll be out on Mullen and Kona, which is even a bigger hazard. So I think I question the density, or at least the layout, but I guess that's my biggest comment and concern, and I don't see how it really fits on paper.
For what it's worth, the developers will be living in the single family residence on the property. They will be enforcing the covenants and trying to keep everything under control without letting too many vehicles. They don't want to put an overflow of vehicles there either.
So it is restricted to 2 vehicles per dwelling, or per unit? Yes. Is that correct?
2 per unit?
2 per unit.
Yep, 2 per unit.
Okay. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Tanya. Nick, is there of the staff conditions, is there anything that you wanted to note or highlight?
No, I think the most important one was the fire sprinkler requirement and the annexation into the Missoula Urban Transportation District. There was a number of conditions cleaning up some covenants language, and then they will have it through to get their well right permitted. They're kind of just an administrative thing with the DNRC, but I think the major ones were the annexation into the urban district and the fire sprinklers.
And then can you again remind us about the compliance with the land use element?
Yeah, totally. Let me go back to that slide real fast. So it is rural residential and small agriculture, which is a 1 unit per 1 acre to 2 units per 1 acre. But this designation does have a density bonus for scenarios where public facilities can be provided. I think that was put in place knowing that as Missoula grows, some of these rural residential small ag designations could be developed at a higher density as the sewer comes outward. So in this case, the sewer system's in the Stillwater subdivision, so that it's a pretty short connection there. And then, yeah, just going over those 2 objectives again of the growth policy goal number 8 is to provide opportunities for varied land uses in and around existing communities, and to guide new subdivisions and development into areas that have the least impact on natural resources, on natural resources, and are the most suited for development. And in this case, with the connection to public facilities, this would be deemed an area suited for development.
Okay, thank you. And Stephen Ashton has a hand up.
Thanks, everybody. Sorry, I'm late. I'm Christina Ashton's husband. And neighbors to Pat and Wendy. We have the biggest lot line that borders right where this proposal is, and I apologize. I'm going to try to just make a few points and concerns as well, and I apologize since I'm late if I rehash any of them. But I know I'm kind of with Pat. I just very concerned. The density here is just unlike any. I mean, the closest density from what's going to get fit in here, you'd have to go to the condos and the apartments next to Walmart, like 5 miles away, and it just seems really out of place to try to cram something like this into such a small little spot when everything around it, the whole reason we picked where we lived, and this isn't, I fully get there's affordable housing issues in Missoula, completely understand, but the majority of us that bought here was to have somewhat of that space and quiet and solitude, and this just seems like a really misuse of that acre 0.3 to try to cram 9 units. And the fact that the majority of those are going to be rentals, so you really don't even, they're not even neighbors that you can truly get to know. I mean, there's just, I don't want to sound like I'm griping or complaining, but it's just really counterintuitive to really everything that the majority of us moved out there for. And so that's the concern. I saw in the HOAs that you could have up to 4 dogs per unit. And I mean, if you multiply that 9 times 4, 36 dogs, 20 some cars, how does that work with no common area and literally you're living on pavement? If you don't even have grass, the duplex that's there is going to walk out their back door to asphalt. Seems completely counterintuitive to that space and not honoring what that area out there resides. I mean, to what was just said, if the sewer wasn't there, this wouldn't even be up for discussion. There'd be no way to put something like this in. It'd just be impossible. So not that that means it should be negated, but man, I just think we should be a little bit more mindful of what we're really trying to accomplish here. And then I think my last comment would be, it's great that I think Tanya and Travis are going to be there and living in that one spot. But, you know, what if they decide to move in 2 years and they cash it out? You know, who's there to make sure that that road that now is my backyard doesn't fill up with RVs and trailers and cars and rental whatever? It's just that it just causes me a lot of stress. That wasn't really what I was looking to have sitting behind me permanently. So.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. And I believe that Tanya did respond or did answer parking and the dog concerns. But Tanya, if you wanted to, or I'm so embarrassed that I'm forgetting the. Oh, go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
Yeah, and I can hold this until after public comment is completed, but I do have a few thoughts on some of the input we've heard from the public, but I can wait.
And I'm embarrassed. I'm forgetting the 406 representative's name.
Carl.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So we've discussed all these issues before. They'll be living there. We have covenants in place in order to control whatever additional concerns may arise outside of the density. But as far as
the question is, I know we
can.
I know we can, but should we? That I know we can fit that many on there. You've made the point. It's all been vetted and permits have been made, but the question is, should we be putting all that out there? I think that's really where I'm trying to get at is, should we be doing that?
Okay, thanks, Steve. Is there any other public comment? I don't see any more hands or anyone else on a phone. Okay, we'll close it for discussion then. Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Juanita. So, yeah, I completely sympathize with concerns as far as how this might change the character of the landscape. And just so folks know, and I don't mean to sound dismissive at all, but in terms of the authority of the Board of County Commissioners, we don't have as much authority as some folks might think that we have, and what's being proposed here complies with the law, is legal. The zoning is what really is the bedrock upon which proposals like this are built. And my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, but the density that's being proposed does comply with zoning. I see a head nod, and so if that's the case, then we would be hard pressed to say you cannot build at this density, since it's allowed by regulation and by law to be built at this density. I suspect that there are plenty of other parcels out in the Kona Ranch area that also have not been built out yet to their full potential of zoning density, but higher density would be allowed. So I totally get it. When you purchase a piece of property, if you're unaware of the potential for higher density being built out, you might see an open field and think it's going to be that way in perpetuity, but it, for better or for worse, likely will not be. Also, I'll just want to be real about as far as how covenants will play out. While it does provide some greater level of comfort that certain things will or will not happen on the property, covenants are enforced between private parties, and that's not something that we will be wielding regulatory control over. So while I think covenants are something that you can say will hopefully be what plays out on the ground. I just want to temper expectations that it's total, whether covenants are enforced or not, is totally going to be a function of the property owners within this proposed development. One question I guess I do have, Nick, and I think I know the answer to this, is in terms of maximum the maximum number of vehicles that would be allowed on a property. Clearly, during the subdivision review process, we might be, or even perhaps zoning, looking at providing adequate parking. So kind of a minimum number of parking spaces available. Do we even have any regulatory authority over the maximum number of vehicles that might be parked on a lot or property?
Not that I'm aware, unless they meet like the junk vehicle classification that the health department would administer through their program. For zoning compliance, we look at minimum number of spaces provided. So in this case, it would be 2 per unit, and with each unit having a garage stall plus a driveway, they do meet the minimum requirement for parking.
And I guess, thank you. And I guess my last question, and this would either be for 406 or for Nick, would be everything that's currently contemplated to be built out there is able to be built by it's regulatorily compliant to build what you're proposing right now. What we're contemplating is simply dividing the property such that what's being proposed to be developed is going to be on its own separate lots. Is that a correct interpretation?
Correct.
I'm seeing head nods from 406 also.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. I don't have any more questions, Juanita.
No, so what you're saying, the decision space is pretty darn narrow in the end, because the buildings, the infrastructure, it's already there. This is just a matter of essentially lot lines.
Yeah, this is all permitted. It's going to be built, and this proposal is about subdividing it and putting lines on the paper.
And I guess that's the whole upshot of my comments is our decision space, because of what the zoning is, because of what the land use element and growth policy prescribe, our decision space is not unlimited, and in fact, it could all be built regardless of the proposed subdivision.
Are you prepared to make a motion?
Yeah, if Nick could queue up the motion, I'd be happy to do so. So I would move that the Kona Ranch subdivision be approved based on the findings of fact and conclusions of law in the staff report and subject to the recommended conditions of approval in the staff report.
Second. And any further comment? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Next is Joker Flat Subdivision with Bailey Minnick.
Hi, commissioners. Give me 1 second to get my screen share going here.
Yes.
Okay, hopefully you guys can see my screen. Perfect.
Yes.
I see head nods. Okay, great. So good afternoon. For everybody on the line, my name is Bailey Minnick. I'm the Planner 3 with the CAPS Planning Office. And we are here to talk about Joker Flats Subdivision. Make sure I'm on the right screen. There we go. So the subject property is located at 2600 Big Flat Road. So I've got it outlined there. It's actually not far from the subdivision we were just talking about, off the corner of Kona Ranch and Big Flat Road and Melody Lane. The existing zoning on the site is CRR1, which has a maximum residential density of 1 dwelling unit per 1 acre with no minimum lot size stated. And as Nick mentioned in his previous presentation, this area is part of the zoning code update that will be coming forward. It's projected right now to go to rural residential small agriculture 1, which has a minimum lot size of 1 acre, and the max density would stay the same at 1 unit per 1 acre. So really it's not changing as far as density, but there would be a minimum lot size. The existing land use designation, this property actually has 2 designations currently on it under the 2019 land use element. One is the rural residential and small agriculture. That's really the main portion of it. That's kind of highlighted in that yellow color you see on the screen on the property. And then there is a small portion of rural residential and agriculture as well. So the proposed preliminary plat, and bear with me, I did a screenshot of it, so I apologize if it's a little blurry, but this is a 3-lot minor subdivision proposed for residential use. It's on 9.56 acres total. There is an existing residential dwelling with a driveway, domestic well, and septic system that's located on lot 1. Let me see if I put my little laser pointer on here. It's located in this area down here to the south is where the existing home's located. So going over the main criteria, so the property has been historically utilized for agricultural use, but there are no agricultural operations that are occurring on the property. We are proposing as a condition of approval that their notification for agricultural purposes be included in the proposed covenants, just for future landowners to be aware that there are agricultural uses in the area and that those types of activities are present. The primary access for the lots is off of Big Flat Road, but there is where the existing driveway currently is on the property, that will become a shared access. And because there are more than 2 units accessing off that shared approach, it effectively becomes a road. So it's Joker Flats Road is what it will become. One unique condition about the road, so lots 1 and 3 will have property lines that actually butt up to Big Flat Road, but lot 2 will not. And so that one would only have physical access once the internal road is constructed. So we are recommending a condition of approval that portion to lot 2 be constructed prior to final plat and actually not be permitted for bonding or part of a subdivision improvement agreement. So that lot actually does have both legal and physical access to it at the time of development. Minor subdivisions are not required to have pedestrian facilities. All 3 lots would have individual septic systems. It would include 2 new wells would be drilled to serve lots 2 and lots 3. Groundwater monitoring was completed by the health department in spring of 2021. Oh, I just got notified I have bad network quality. Can you guys still hear me? Okay, sorry.
Yep.
Just making sure.
Dave, are you okay?
Okay,
Yep.
perfect.
Okay.
Groundwater monitoring, as I said, was completed by the health department in spring of 2021. There was no high groundwater present at the time that they did do the test holes. The minor subdivisions are exempt from parkland dedication requirements, so there are no parkland requirements. Fire hazard assessment was completed for the subdivision. It did return a score indicating low risk for the property. However, under our 2018 Community Wildfire Protection Plan, this area is depicted as a very high wildfire hazard level. So we are recommending a condition of approval that residential structures be constructed with Class A fire rated roofing, and that this language also be included within the proposed covenants for future landowners to be aware of. They are proposing residential fire sprinkler systems for their fire suppression plan requirements. And finally, the floodplain. So this property does have floodplain on the northern end of the property. It's shown as shaded zone X and then zone AH, which is the 100-year floodplain with ponding available. As a condition of approval, we are recommending the delineation of the 100-year floodplain elevation on the final plat defined by bearings and distances to be reviewed and approved by Todd, the floodplain administrator. Prior to that, they are proposing this area as a no build zone to prevent any disturbance. And as part of that, it would prohibit access from Melody Lane to the proposed or to the any homes on the other side of that. And then we did receive comment from the Water Quality District stating that they do have a nearby monitoring well off of Melody Lane that actually has captured groundwater elevations within 6 to 7 feet below ground surface. And this tends to coincide with the high water elevations we see with the Clark Fork River. So to prevent any potential flooding from the groundwater during high water times of the river, they are recommending no basements. And so we do have a proposed condition that would be included in the covenants, or excuse me, they have included this in the covenants, but we're proposing really to make this kind of hard and fast and not be able to be amended. So we've recommending a condition on the subdivision that no basements are permitted within the development. Sorry, clicked on the wrong screen. There it goes. Okay, so we did notify agencies for comments. Most of them I've discussed: fire department, air quality, health. We did get a comment from Five Valley Audubons, basically saying that yes, there's wildlife in the area, but because this property has been developed for so long for agricultural use, that it's actually kind of lost its natural resource protection viability of it. So they didn't see an issue with the subdivision, but they did encourage the owners to make vegetation an important part of development within their future plans for it. We did notify adjacent neighbors as well, and I've had no comments received on the project. So staff is recommending approval with proposed conditions, and I have a motion for you, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And I know IMEG is also on the line as well for anything.
Thanks. Is that, and IMEG, that would be Paul, or who from IMEG?
I'm Joe Dennert. I'm here with IMEG. I'm also joined by Paul and then also the applicant, Ruth Duperon.
Okay. Yeah, do you want to add anything?
No, nothing really to add. Bailey, thank you so much for the thorough report. I just have a question on the motion and action section of that report under roads, number 11, regarding the detention ponds on the proposed lots needing to be depicted with an easement. Has that been updated on the staff report, or is that still existing?
No, that's still existing. I figured I would let you guys bring that up if that was something that you wanted to be amended.
Yeah, so we're proposing that be amended predominantly because the stormwater plan that we presented, that we put forward, has each individual lot as its own drainage basin. And those detention ponds on the individual lots were calculated for just retaining that stormwater. So there is no bleed over from the road. The road already has a stormwater easement for retention, or excuse me, for detention, and the other lots don't contribute to that whatsoever. So the requirement to have the other lots' individual detention ponds as an easement, we believe is unnecessary, and we'd like to see if that's possible to get removed.
Bailey, do you have, is there a map that shows the detention sites?
Yep, I have it as a PDF up just in case for this. Let me give you a second to get to the right window. We should this one. So what Joe was bringing up, let me get everybody back. I like to be able to see you all while I'm talking to you. So the detention, so these are the subdivisions. Hopefully you can see this. Do you need me to, maybe I'll make it bigger and see if that helps at all. So the detention ponds, there's one, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but there's one here, there's one in the road here on lot 2, and then here on lot 1. And the reason why staff proposed this condition was because I'm not a hydraulic engineer in any sense way, shape, or form. But we were just concerned mainly with looking at the directions and the topography, making sure that, the stormwater on lot 3 isn't going to go to lot 2, or, and now you basically have potential maintenance issues, right? Like if owner of lot 2 isn't maintaining their, stormwater, it affects lot 3 and just kind of those types of things. So, it's something that again, if they can provide information that shows lot 2 is not going to be affected by lot 3 or lot 1, anything like that, I don't think we have an issue with that condition being removed. That's just something that we didn't have confidence at this time that we could definitely say for sure. And so that's why we were proposing any easements that would be necessary.
So I guess a follow up on that. What if what you're saying is that to have the confidence level to modify or remove that condition, you would need additional information? What would need to happen procedurally today to move forward? Could it be a provisional action on our part pending staff and CAPS receiving additional information? Because I don't know if without that information in hand and without you having the chance to review it, I don't know that we'd be in a great position to make a decision on the spot about that.
And I know Dan Foltz has his hand up as well, but before, and he might be able to say this. And one idea I have thought of as well could just be maybe a slight modification to that just says unless information can be provided prior to final plat that the easements are not warranted or necessary from a stamped engineer. And maybe Dan has some thoughts as well, but.
Okay, Dan.
Hey guys, how are you? I just wanted to.
Oh, sorry, Dan. Can you fully introduce yourself with proper title, etc., for the record?
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Dan Foltz, work here at IMEG, worked on some of the application for Ruth Ann Dupron on this. What you're looking at is a stormwater plan that was stamped by a professional engineer, Kale Mages in our office here, that does show that the 100-year storm is going to be captured on each lot. So Basin C is its own basin, and those were the calculations done to be captured in that stormwater swale and retention pond. Same with Basin B, same with Basin A. And then the road of itself has 2 retention ponds with roadside ditches that will capture just the stormwater for the road, and that is located in an easement. So kind of the shared common elements will be captured, and they are in an easement. We can't get through a DEQ review process that double checks our stormwater if any of the water from one lot goes to the next. So I know there's some flow arrows that may be confusing this a little bit. For instance, on lot 3, that shows a flow arrow going towards lot B. The reason why that's okay is there's no impervious surface in that area that would cause additional stormwater runoff. So if you look at the impervious surfaces where the driveway and the house is, and you look at those flow arrows, that's showing that the roof gutters are going to hit the swale, the driveway is going to be cross graded to hit the swale, and all of that for the 100-year storm is going to be collected in that pond. So I think we've provided the information to show that easements aren't necessary. I just don't know that, as Bailey said, I mean, planners, no offense, Bailey, but I'm not an engineer either, but planners aren't really stormwater people. And so when the county public works doesn't comment or review these plans during the process, we're kind of left in the situation where Bailey has to make a suggestion that might not be, how could she understand that? So there's a lot going on there. I think we have provided that information, but if you still need a condition, I'd suggest that we maybe just say upon public works approval, because they're also the ones that check these grading and drainage plans for road construction. So hopefully that helps.
Thanks. How does that make you feel, Dave and Bailey?
I guess it's just a matter of Bailey or anyone else from CAPS on the line here who can quickly craft the language that would capture what Dan just stated.
I'm thinking in my head. Sorry.
Okay,
That's where I'm
no,
like,
is
how do I?
Tim or John Hart have anything on here? Or Dan, is your hand back up again?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I think the standard conditions of approval that we meet DEQ requirement and, you know, the county public works requirement for grading and drainage and roads already covers it because it's the same standard. So just a comment.
Okay.
So I guess that is the question. For all intents and purposes, is that base covered without the condition that's at play here, or would any language need to be modified? I mean, if any problems are going to be caught by subsequent review processes.
And I think CAPS would be okay with removing that condition if that, you know, I mean, that's, and what, you know, what Dan's saying, I'm not hurt by, I'm not an engineer. So I mean, we are kind of left, and that is kind of the issue. If we don't get comments from other agencies that are the ones that are supposed to be reviewing these types of things, we kind of have to use our best judgment in making sure that public health and safety aspects are covered. So I think understanding that process, I think CAPS would be okay with just removing that condition.
I mean, so removing 11 altogether, is that what you're saying? Or
yeah.
But for the purposes of today's meeting, do we want to wait until you get confirmation, or how do you want to?
Well, so part of why today, I mean, we are at the 35 working day. Like today is, unless you know, the applicant is willing to push it down the road, we're at the end of our review time. So the decision would have to be made today as far as, and it can be, I mean, it could be part of the motion as well to just, you know, recommend, you know, approval with the conditions, just with the removal of condition 11, a slight change, if that is the way we want to go.
Yeah, I think that is the question. If striking condition 11 doesn't give anyone heartburn, then you strike it as part of the motion to approve the subdivision.
So who on this call is prone to heartburn? Okay, well, any further comments?
Commissioners, this is Tim. Sorry, I'm a little raspy. I'm under the weather.
Oh, sorry.
But I can affirm that I have no heartburn.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. And I hope you feel better soon. Okay, Dave, do you have, no, I don't see any other hands up and no further comment.
We did open the public comment period, right? I got thinking
Oh,
about
sorry.
stormwater,
I think
so I was just
we're
thinking.
still in public comment. We
Okay.
haven't closed anything yet.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're going to close public comment. Any additional comments from you, Dave?
No, I don't. This looks pretty straightforward, and if striking condition 11 doesn't create any unintended consequences, which I don't think it will, then I think we move forward with that. I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay. I agree.
So I'll put up my slide here, but just bear in mind that I didn't add anything as far as that striking that condition. So you could just put that in as part of at the end if you want to.
Sure. I would move that we approve The Joker Flat subdivision based on the findings of fact and conclusions of law and the staff report and subject to the amended recommended conditions of approval in the staff report, striking condition 11.
Second. Any further comment? All in favor? Aye. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, commissioners.
Yeah. Any other business? Okay, looks like we can adjourn. Be safe, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.